The water was freezing. That was the first thought that cut through my consciousness as my body broke the surface of the South China Sea. The second thought was, I'm back. I gasped, salt water flooding my throat, and for a moment I was disoriented, choking, coughing, struggling to stay afloat. The yacht loomed above me, its deck crowded with silhouettes, champagne glasses catching the afternoon sun. Music still played somewhere. Laughter still echoed. No one had noticed yet. No one except me. Because I had just jumped into the ocean to save the man who would destroy me. My arms moved on instinct, cutting through the waves toward the struggling figure 20 meters ahead. Julian Sterling. My fiancé. The man I had loved for 7 years. The man who, in my previous life, had married me out of obligation, cheated on me with my own sister, and then when I told him I was pregnant had me dragged onto an operating table and forced me to lose everything. Including my life. The water burned my eyes, but I blinked through it. I could see him now, Julian, panicking, his expensive suit clinging to his body, his arms flailing as he swallowed seawater. He had been drugged. Someone had pushed him overboard. In my first life, I had been the one to save him, to perform CPR on him in front of everyone, to become the hero who earned an engagement she never asked for. That engagement had been a curse. This time, I wasn't going to save him. I swam closer, close enough to see his face pale, desperate, his eyes wide with the primal fear of drowning. In my past life, I had reached him. I had pulled him to the surface. I had given him CPR, mouth to mouth, my hands pressing against his chest while a crowd of onlookers watched and whispered. And what had he done? He had pushed me away. Wiped his mouth. Looked at me like I was something filthy he had accidentally touched. But this time, I turned my head toward the yacht and screamed. Lily! Lily, help! Julian is drowning. My voice carried across the water, sharp and desperate. On the deck, chaos erupted. People rushed to the railing. I saw my sister's face appear, Lily, beautiful Lily, with her long black hair and her delicate features and her carefully practiced expression of innocent concern. I saw her hesitate. I saw the calculation flash behind her eyes. And then I saw her dive. She hit the water gracefully, like she had been training for this moment her entire life. Which, in a way, she had. Lily had always been the one who got everything I wanted. The one Julian truly loved. The one who, in my previous life, had smiled at me while holding his child, a child that looked 70% like him, and said, Maya, you've suffered so much all these years. Maybe it's time you stepped aside. I watched my sister swim toward Julian with practiced ease. I watched her wrap her arms around him, drag him toward the surface, call out for help in that sweet, trembling voice that made everyone want to protect her. I watched her perform CPR on him, mouth to mouth, hands on his chest, while I floated 10 meters away, shivering, forgotten. Just as I had planned. The yacht's rescue boat was lowered. Strong arms pulled Lily and Julian aboard. Someone threw me a life preserver, but no one rushed to pull me in. I was an afterthought. A witness. A nobody. And that was exactly how I wanted it. The morning after. I developed a fever that night. The seawater had been bone-chillingly cold, and I had stayed in it longer than necessary, long enough to make sure Lily was seen as the hero, long enough to make sure no one would ever question the story. When I finally climbed back onto the yacht, shivering and blue-lipped, Julian had already been taken below deck. Lily was at his side, holding his hand, her wet hair clinging to her cheeks like she was some kind of tragic heroine. No one looked at me. I took a towel from a passing steward, wrapped it around my shoulders, and walked to my cabin alone. By midnight, my temperature had spiked. I lay in my narrow bunk, teeth chattering, every muscle aching. In my previous life, I had been the one kneeling beside Julian's bed, changing cold compresses, whispering reassurances, desperate for him to wake up and look at me with something other than disgust. He had never looked at me that way. Not once in 7 years. Now, as the fever burned through me, I heard footsteps outside my cabin door. I tensed, every nerve on alert. The door swung open without a knock. Julian Sterling stood in the doorway. He was pale, his hair still damp, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar. He looked tired. Irritated. Like a man who had been woken up and dragged somewhere he didn't want to be. What do you want? I asked. My voice came out scratchy, weak. I hated how weak I sounded. Julian's eyes swept over me, my flushed cheeks, my tangled hair, my shivering form, and his lip curled. Playing sick now, Maya, he said coldly. That's a new low. Even for you. I closed my eyes. In my previous life, those words would have gutted me. I would have apologized. I would have promised to be better, to be less of a burden, to disappear if that's what he wanted. This time, I opened my eyes and stared at him. Go away, Julian. I'm not in the mood. He blinked. Clearly, he hadn't expected resistance. He stepped into the room, looming over my bunk, his shadow blocking the dim light from the hallway. What kind of game are you playing? He demanded. You deliberately called Lily over to save me. You made sure everyone saw her giving me CPR. Do you have any idea what that does to her reputation? She's not like you, Maya. She has dignity. She has class. And he spat the words like they were poison. You just used her. You used her to humiliate me. I laughed. It was a small sound, barely more than a breath, but it stopped him cold. Humiliate you? I repeated. Julian, I saved your life. I called for help. I made sure someone got to you before you drowned. What exactly would you have preferred? That I let you die? He recoiled like I had slapped him. You're impossible, he said. You're selfish and manipulative and you don't care about anyone but yourself. Then why are you here? I asked. If I'm so terrible, why come to my cabin? Why check on me at all? He opened his mouth to respond, probably something cutting, something designed to put me in my place, but nothing came out. He stood there, frozen, his jaw tight, his eyes searching my face like he was looking for something he used to see there. He didn't find it. Get some rest, he finally said, and his voice was flat, emotionless. When we dock, I'm taking Lily back to the Miller estate. We have things to discuss. Fine, I said. Discuss whatever you want. It doesn't matter to me. He paused in the doorway. He was waiting for me to call him back. In my previous life, I always did. I always begged, always pleaded, always made myself small and desperate for any scrap of his attention. This time, I rolled over and faced the wall. The door clicked shut behind him. The engagement. The rumors started before we even docked. By the time the yacht reached the harbor, everyone on board had heard the story. Lily Miller, the quiet, beautiful orphan, had risked her life to save Julian Sterling. She had given him CPR. She had held his hand. She had stayed by his side all night. The hero. The saint. The woman Julian had always loved but never admitted to himself. I heard them whispering as I walked down the gangplank, pale and shivering, wrapped in a borrowed coat that smelled like someone else's perfume. I heard them say, "Isn't she Julian's fiancé? Why didn't she save him herself, and did you see how she just floated there? Pathetic, and Lily is so brave. She deserves someone like Julian." I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just walked to the car my parents had sent, got in, and closed the door. That evening, Julian drove Lily back to the Miller estate. I watched from my bedroom window as his black Mercedes pulled into the driveway, watched as he opened the door for her, watched as she stepped out in a dress that I knew cost more than my monthly allowance. They walked toward the front door together. They were laughing about something. My parents greeted them warmly. My mother hugged Lily and said, "Oh, you poor thing, you must have been so scared," and my father clapped Julian on the shoulder and said, "A real hero, this girl. You should be proud." Julian smiled. A real smile. The kind he never gave me. "Actually," he said, "there's something I need to discuss with you both." I made my way downstairs slowly, my footsteps silent on the marble stairs. I paused in the hallway just outside the living room, where I could see them through the gap in the door. Julian was holding Lily's hand. "After everything that happened," he said, "Lily's reputation is compromised. People saw her giving me CPR. They're talking. Gossiping. And I can't let that stand." My mother's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Julian said, "that I want to marry her. Properly. Officially. I want to take responsibility for what happened." The room fell silent. I could feel my parents' eyes flicker toward the doorway, sensing my presence. But I didn't step forward. I didn't announce myself. I just stood there, invisible, listening. Lily's voice broke the silence, soft and uncertain. "Julian, I don't want to cause problems between you and Maya. She's loved you for so long." "Maya will understand," Julian said firmly. "It's time she moved on anyway. She needs to let go of this obsession she has with me. It's not healthy. It's not good for anyone." My father cleared his throat. "Julian, this is quite sudden. You were engaged to Maya. The families have been planning." "I know," Julian said. "And I'm sorry for the disruption. But Lily is the one I want. She's always been the one. I just didn't realize it until now." I stepped into the doorway. Every head turned toward me. "Maya," my mother said, her voice strained. "We were just..." "I heard," I said. "Everything." Julian's expression was a mixture of guilt and defiance. He lifted his chin, waiting for me to make a scene. Waiting for me to cry and beg and throw myself at his feet. I smiled. "Congratulations," I said. "I hope you'll be very happy together." The shock on his face was almost worth everything I had been through. "Maya," he started, stepping toward me. I held up a hand. "Don't." I meant what I said. "You want to marry Lily?" Marry Lily. It's fine. I've already moved on. You've moved on, he repeated, his voice sharp with disbelief. In one night? I shrugged. It's been a long time coming, Julian. I just didn't have the courage to admit it. He was watching me like he had never seen me before, like I was a stranger wearing a familiar face. Lily, sensing the shift in his attention, squeezed his hand and smiled sweetly. Maya, she said, I know this isn't easy for you. But I want you to know that I'll never take your place in the family. We can still be sisters, can't we? I looked at her, this woman who had stolen my fiancé, who had pretended to be my friend while systematically dismantling every piece of my life, and I laughed. Of course, I said. Sisters forever. The first week. The engagement was announced 3 days later. Lily and Julian were the picture of happiness, beautiful, well-matched, the perfect couple. The papers ate it up. Socialite Lily Miller saves her Prince Charming. Julian Sterling, I knew from the moment I saw her. My parents, to their credit, tried to be supportive. Maya, honey, my mother said, sitting on my bed one evening, I know this is hard. But Julian is right. It's time to move on. We can find you someone else. Someone who actually appreciates you. I laughed at that. It's fine, Mom. I don't want him anymore. I really don't. She didn't believe me. Neither did anyone else. Julian started visiting the Miller estate regularly. Not to see me, of course not, but to see Lily. He brought her flowers. He brought her jewelry. He brought her chocolates from the fancy shop downtown that I had once mentioned I liked, and she smiled and thanked him and then turned to me and said, Maya, do you want one? Julian gives me so much I can't possibly eat it all. It was cruel. Deliberately cruel. But I didn't react. I had started wearing brighter colors, reds and yellows, colors I had never dared to wear because Julian said he preferred neutrals. I cut my hair short. I started going out in the evenings, meeting friends I had neglected, living my life without him. And that's when I met Daniel. Daniel Park was the CEO of a tech startup my father had invested in. He was tall, dark-haired, quietly confident, and he had the warmest smile I had ever seen. We had been introduced at a charity gala, my mother's idea, she was clearly still trying to set me up, and we had talked for 4 hours straight. 4 hours. I had never talked to Julian for 4 hours. He was always too busy, too distracted, too something. Daniel asked me questions. Real questions. He listened to the answers. He laughed at my jokes and told me his own, and I felt, for the first time in years, like I was actually being seen. Can I take you out tomorrow night? He asked at the end of the evening. I didn't hesitate. I'd like that. When I came home that night, humming a little tune, Julian was sitting on the couch in the living room. He looked up sharply as I walked in, his eyes scanning my outfit, a red dress, fitted, daring, and his jaw tightened. Where have you been? He demanded. I paused. That's none of your business. It is my business if you're bringing shame to this family, he said coldly. I may not be marrying you, but I'm still responsible for Lily's reputation. And you wandering around in that, he gestured at my dress like it was offensive, reflects poorly on everyone. I laughed. You've got some nerve, Julian. You're engaged to my sister. You have no right to tell me what to do. He stood up, advancing toward me. Is that how you're going to be now? Reckless? Self-destructive? Because I know you, Maya. I know you're just trying to get my attention. If only, I said drily. He was close now, close enough that I could smell his cologne, the familiar scent that used to make my knees weak. His hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. You still wear that bracelet, he said, his eyes fixed on the gold chain around my wrist. My initial. You still wear it. I pulled my hand back. It's an heirloom, I said. It has nothing to do with you. But he wasn't listening. His eyes had gone dark, and he was looking at me with an expression I had never seen on his face before. Something hungry. Something possessive. Maya, he said, his voice low, I want you to stop this. Stop going out. Stop dressing like that. Just be yourself again. You mean the version of myself that worshipped the ground you walked on? I said coolly. The one who waited up for you every night and cried when you didn't show up? Sorry, Julian. She died. You killed her. I walked past him, up the stairs, into my room. I closed the door behind me and leaned against it, my heart pounding. That was the first time I realized he still cared. And I hated him for it. The dinner party. Lily and Julian's engagement dinner was held at the Sterling mansion 2 weeks later. It was a grand affair, candlelight, crystal glasses, a string quartet in the corner. Everyone who was anyone in Riverdale was there. Lily wore a white gown that made her look like a bride, and Julian wore a tuxedo that fit him perfectly, and they were the picture of happiness. I was the maid of honor. Lily had insisted. Maya, you're my sister, she said sweetly. I can't imagine having anyone else stand beside me on my special day. It was a power play. A reminder of everything she had taken from me. A way to rub my face in it. But I accepted. Because I had something she didn't know about. Daniel was my date. He had insisted on coming, despite knowing the awkwardness of the situation. I want to meet the man who was foolish enough to let you go, he had said with a grin. When we walked into the ballroom together, all eyes turned toward us. I felt them, the whispers, the stares. Julian looked up from across the room, and his face went white. What is he doing here, he demanded, striding over. Daniel Park is my guest, I said calmly. Is that a problem? You brought a stranger to an engagement dinner for my fiancé? Julian's voice was cold, clipped. Unbelievable. You really do have no shame. Daniel stepped forward. Julian Sterling. I've heard a lot about you. All of it bad, I hope, Julian said. Daniel smiled. It's not my place to say. But I will say this, Maya is the most remarkable woman I've ever met. I'm grateful every day that you let her go. Julian's fist clenched at his side. I saw his knuckles go white. You don't know what you're talking about, he hissed. You don't know her. Not like I do. Maybe not, Daniel said. But I'm looking forward to learning. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. Lily was charming and radiant, laughing at Julian's jokes, touching his arm, whispering in his ear. Julian was distracted. His eyes kept flickering toward me, toward Daniel, toward the way I smiled when Daniel held my hand. After dinner, Lily pulled me aside. You're doing this to hurt me, she said, her voice trembling with false emotion. You've never forgiven me for taking Julian away from you. And now you're trying to make me jealous by parading around with this nobody. Daniel is far from a nobody, I said. And for the record, I have no interest in making you jealous. I've moved on. You should too. She blinked at me, caught off guard. You don't love Julian anymore? No, I said. I don't. She stared at me for a long moment, searching my face for the lie. And then she smiled, a real smile, sharp and victorious. Good, she whispered. Because he's never going to love you back. He never has. I know, I said. That's why I'm marrying Daniel. The look on her face was priceless. 2 weeks after the engagement dinner, Lily cornered me in the hallway of our parents' house. The smile she wore was sharp enough to cut glass. I saw the way Julian looked at you that night, she said, her voice a low hiss. Don't think I didn't notice. He kept watching you with Daniel. He couldn't tear his eyes away. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. That sounds like a you problem, Lily. Not a me problem. Her composure cracked for just a fraction of a second. The mask slipped and I saw what was underneath, something ugly, something desperate. Then it was back in place, sweet and concerned. I'm just looking out for you, Maya. I know you think you've moved on, but we both know the truth. You've loved Julian for 7 years. You don't just get over that in a few weeks. Daniel is just a rebound. A distraction. And when he inevitably leaves you, I don't want you to come crawling back to Julian and ruin what I've built. I laughed. Actually laughed. The sound echoed off the marble floors and Lily's face flushed an ugly shade of red. Lily, listen to me very carefully, I said, stepping closer. I don't want Julian. I don't want anything that belongs to you. Not your engagement, not your future husband, not your carefully constructed little fairy tale. You can have all of it. Every single piece. I'm done. She searched my face for the lie, the crack, the tell she was so sure she would find. Her eyes narrowed. You're lying. You have to be lying. No one just walks away from 7 years of obsession. Watch me, I said, and I walked past her without looking back. But walking away from Julian Sterling wasn't as simple as just saying the words. The universe, it seemed, had other plans. It started small. A delivery of white roses to my office at the small publishing house where I worked. No card, but I knew who they were from. Julian had always sent me white roses when he wanted something. In our previous life, I had saved every single petal. I threw them in the trash. Then came the texts. First from unknown numbers, then from his personal phone. I had blocked him, but he kept finding new ways to reach me. We need to talk. Maya, please. I made a mistake. You can't just disappear from my life. I deleted every single one. Then he started showing up. At my favorite cafe. At the park where I walked Luna in the mornings. At the grocery store down the street from my apartment. Each time, he looked haggard, unshaven, like he hadn't slept in days. Each time, I pretended I didn't see him. But one evening, he cornered me in the parking garage of my building. I had just stepped out of my car when his hand clamped around my wrist, spinning me around to face him. "Julian," I said, and my voice was ice. "Let go of me. Not until you hear me out." His eyes were bloodshot, his grip too tight, his entire body vibrating with a tension I had never seen in him before. In my previous life, he had always been composed, controlled, untouchable. This man before me was unraveling. "There's nothing to hear," I said. "You made your choice. You chose Lily. End of story. I was wrong." The words tumbled out of him like they had been building up for weeks. "I was so wrong, Maya. I thought I loved her. I thought she was everything I wanted. But I was angry at you. For making me feel things I didn't want to feel. For being there all the time. For making me need you." I stared at him. "You're not making any sense." He laughed, a jagged, broken sound. "I know I sound insane. But ever since you jumped into that ocean and then just let me go, I can't stop thinking about you. Every time I look at Lily, I see your face. Every time she talks, I hear your voice. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I can't breathe, Maya. I can't breathe without you." His grip on my wrist tightened and I winced. He didn't notice. He was too far gone, too deep in his own spiral of regret. "Let go of me," I said again, this time with steel in my voice. "Not until you tell me you forgive me." "I don't forgive you." He recoiled like I had struck him. "What?" I said, "I don't forgive you." I yanked my wrist out of his grasp, stepping back. "You don't get to treat me like garbage for 7 years, humiliate me in front of everyone I know, marry my sister, and then show up here acting like you're the victim. You made your bed, Julian. Now lie in it." His face crumpled. For a moment, he looked like a lost little boy. "Maya, please. I'll do anything. I'll leave Lily. I'll call off the engagement. I'll..." "Stop." I held up my hand. "Just stop. I don't want you to leave Lily. I don't want you to do anything. I want you to leave me alone. But you loved me. I don't anymore." He shook his head slowly, stubbornly. "I don't believe you. You loved me for 7 years. 7 years, Maya. You don't just turn that off." "You're right," I said. "I don't. It took me dying to finally turn it off." He blinked, confused. "Dying? What are you talking about?" I realized my mistake too late. The words had slipped out, raw and unfiltered. But I couldn't take them back now. So I did the only thing I could. I walked away. I didn't look back. That night, I sat in the dark of my apartment and thought about the life I had left behind. Not the one I was living now, but the one I had died in. The one where Julian and I had been married for 3 years and he had never once looked at me like I was anything more than a convenient obligation. The one where Lily had returned from abroad with a child who had Julian's eyes and smiled with Julian's mouth. The one where I had told him I was pregnant, hoping, praying that somehow it would change things. It hadn't changed anything. It had only made him colder. "Maya," he had said, his voice flat and dispassionate. "You can't keep this child." "But Julian." I said, "You can't." His eyes had been so cold, so empty. "It's not a discussion. I'll arrange for the procedure." I had begged him. I had fallen to my knees and begged him to let me keep our baby. I had promised to disappear, to raise the child alone, to never ask him for anything. I had told him I would love our baby enough for both of us. I had told him I would be enough. He had looked at me with something that might have been pity. "You've never been enough, Maya," he had said. "That's the problem." The procedure had been scheduled for 3 days later. I had walked into that clinic with my heart in my throat and walked out empty. Hollow. Dead inside. I had gone home to an empty house and stared at the wall for hours, wondering how I had become this person. This pathetic, broken, desperate person. And then I had gone to sleep and woken up on that yacht, the cold ocean water splashing against my face, Julian's drowning figure 20 meters ahead of me. It had been a second chance. A gift. And I had every intention of using it. Daniel called me at midnight. I almost didn't answer, but something in me needed to hear his voice. "Maya?" His voice was warm, concerned. "You sound upset. What's wrong?" "Nothing," I said. "Just... Julian showed up tonight." He went quiet for a moment. Then, carefully, "Did he hurt you?" "No. But he was persistent. He said he wanted me back." "And what did you tell him?" "To leave me alone." I laughed bitterly. He didn't take it well. "Where are you now?" Daniel asked. "Are you safe?" "I'm home. I'm fine. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Daniel, you don't have to. I want to. His voice was firm, unyielding. I want to be there for you. Unless you don't want me to. I thought about it. About him. About the way he made me feel seen and heard and valued. About the way he looked at me like I was something precious instead of something broken. Okay, I said softly. I'll leave the door unlocked. When Daniel arrived, he didn't try to kiss me or hold me or make grand gestures. He just sat beside me on the couch and let me talk. I told him about Julian. About the 7 years of chasing a man who never wanted me. About the humiliation and the heartbreak and the way I had slowly lost myself trying to become someone he would love. I didn't tell him about the dying part. Some things were too strange, even for someone as open-minded as Daniel. Sometimes I feel like I made a mistake, I admitted. Like I should have fought harder for him. Daniel's expression didn't change. Why would you say that? Because I wasted 7 years of my life on someone who never truly saw me. And now he's finally looking at me, but I've already moved on, and it just feels wrong. Like I should feel guilty. You don't owe him anything, Daniel said quietly. Not your time, not your love, not your forgiveness. He made his choices. And you made yours. There's no shame in walking away from someone who hurt you. I looked at him, this man who had appeared in my life when I least expected it, who had been patient and kind and had never once asked me to be anything other than who I was. Thank you, I said. For what? For being here. For everything. He smiled. I'm not going anywhere, Maya. Whenever you're ready for something more, I'll be here. But I'm not going to push you. You've been through enough. I leaned my head against his shoulder and closed my eyes. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something that might have been peace. But peace, I was learning, was not something that came easily in my life. 2 days after Julian's confrontation in the parking garage, Lily showed up at my apartment. She didn't knock. She had a key, the one I had given her years ago when I thought we were sisters and not enemies. Maya, she said, stepping inside like she owned the place. We need to talk. I'm busy. I didn't look up from my laptop. I was editing a manuscript, trying to lose myself in someone else's story instead of my own. Julian told me he saw you the other night. Her voice was deceptively calm. He told me you begged him to leave Lily and come back to you. That made me look up. Excuse me? You heard me. She stood in the middle of my living room, her hands on her hips, her eyes blazing with barely contained fury. He told me everything. How you threw yourself at him. How you cried and begged and made a complete fool of yourself. Lily, that is not what happened. Don't lie to me. Her voice rose, cracking the veneer of composure she had always worn like armor. I saw the text messages, Maya. He told me you've been harassing him. Calling him day and night. Sending him desperate letters. It's pathetic. It's embarrassing. And it has to stop. I stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. And then, slowly, I realized what must have happened. Julian had lied to her. He had twisted the story to make himself look like the victim, to make me look like the desperate ex-girlfriend who couldn't let go. It was the same tactic he had used in my previous life, the same manipulation, the same gaslighting. The only difference was that now it was being used on Lily instead of me. I almost laughed. Almost. Lily, I said carefully, I don't know what Julian told you, but I promise you it's not the truth. I haven't called him. I haven't sent him anything. He's the one who's been contacting me. Showing up at my apartment. Texting from different numbers. He cornered me in the parking garage and... Stop. She held up a hand. Just stop. I don't want to hear your excuses. Julian would never lie to me. He loves me. He chose me. And I won't let you destroy what we have. I set down my laptop and stood up. I don't want to destroy what you have. I don't want Julian. I don't want anything to do with either of you. You can have him. You've always had him. He's all yours. She stepped closer, her face twisted with something that wasn't quite anger and wasn't quite sadness. It was something else. Something I recognized from the previous life. Desperation. You don't understand, she whispered. He doesn't love me. He thinks he does, but he doesn't. He loves you. He's always loved you. And I can see it every time he looks at you, every time he talks about you, every time he thinks I'm not watching. It's driving me insane, Maya. You have no idea what it's like. I didn't say anything. I just watched her unravel. He chose me, but he's not mine, she continued, her voice trembling. He's never been mine. His heart belongs to you, and you're not even trying. You're not even fighting for him. You're just letting me have him. Like he's nothing. Like he doesn't matter. He doesn't matter to me, I said quietly. You're lying. I'm not lying. Then why does he still love you? Her voice cracked. Why can't he let you go? I did everything right. I was perfect. I was everything he wanted. And still, he looks at you like you hung the moon. I took a step toward her. Lily, listen to me. I don't want Julian. I don't want the life you're building with him. I have someone else now. Someone who actually loves me. You need to let go of this obsession. It's destroying you. Her eyes narrowed. Someone else? That Daniel guy? He's a rebound, Maya. Everyone can see it. He's just a distraction until Julian comes back to you. And he will come back to you. He'll leave me, and he'll come back to you, and I'll lose everything. Everything I've worked for. Everything I've sacrificed. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. In my previous life, I would have comforted her. I would have wrapped my arms around her and told her everything was going to be okay. I would have believed her tears were real. Now I knew better. I'm going to ask you to leave, I said calmly. This isn't productive. Productive? She laughed bitterly. You think any of this is about productivity? You've ruined my life, Maya. You've ruined everything. And I won't let you get away with it. She stormed out without another word, slamming the door behind her. I stood in the middle of my apartment, my heart pounding, and thought about all the ways my life had changed. In my previous life, I had been the one crying and begging and desperate. Now it was Lily. And the roles had reversed so completely that I barely recognized myself. I called Daniel. Something's happening, I said. She's unhinged. She just showed up at my apartment accusing me of trying to steal Julian back. Daniel was silent for a moment. Are you okay? I'm fine. But I don't think this is over. I think she's planning something. I don't know what, but I can feel it. I'll be right over. Daniel, you don't have to keep coming to my rescue. I can handle. I know you can. His voice was gentle. But that doesn't mean you have to handle it alone. Daniel arrived 20 minutes later with takeout from my favorite restaurant and a determination to make me smile. We ate on the couch, his arm draped across my shoulders, my head resting against his chest. It felt right. It felt safe. I've been thinking, I said quietly. About what? About us. About what I want. He looked down at me, his expression soft and curious. And what do you want? I took a deep breath. I want to be with you. Properly. Not as a rebound, not as a distraction. I want to build something real with you. I want to let go of the past completely and focus on the future. Daniel set down his chopsticks and turned to face me fully. Maya, are you sure? Because I don't want you to rush into something you're not ready for. I can wait. I can wait as long as you need. I don't want to wait anymore, I said. I've spent 7 years waiting for someone who never deserved my time. I'm done waiting. I want to live. His smile was like sunrise breaking through clouds. He leaned in slowly, giving me every opportunity to pull away, and pressed a gentle kiss to my forehead. I love you, he said. The words hung in the air between us, 3 little syllables that carried the weight of everything I had been too afraid to hope for. I love you too, I whispered. And I meant it. The next morning, I woke up to a breaking news alert on my phone. My heart stopped when I saw the headline. I scrolled through the article with shaking hands. According to the press, Julian had called off the wedding the night before. He had told Lily he couldn't marry her. He had said, according to a source close to the family, that he had made a terrible mistake and that he needed to fix it before it was too late. The article didn't mention me by name. But it didn't have to. Everyone in Riverdale knew what it meant. I was getting dressed when I heard a car screech to a halt outside my building. Seconds later, the intercom buzzed. Maya, I know you're in there. We need to talk. Julian's voice was frantic, desperate. Please. I'm begging you. Just give me 5 minutes. I looked at the intercom. Then at my phone, where a text from Daniel was waiting, I saw the news. Are you okay? I typed back, Julian is outside. I'm going to talk to him. One last time. Daniel's reply was immediate, I'm on my way. I took a deep breath, smoothed down my dress, and went to open the door. Julian Sterling stood in the hallway, and he looked like a man who had been through a war. His clothes were rumpled, his jaw shadowed with stubble, his eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. When he saw me, something in his expression crumpled. I called off the engagement, he said. I did it. It's over between me and Lily. I crossed my arms. That's your decision. My decision? He laughed, but it was a hollow, broken sound. Maya, I did it for you. I did it because I realized I was making the biggest mistake of my life. I don't love Lily. I never loved her. I was just confused. Angry. Stupid. You were, I agreed. But that's not my problem anymore. He stepped closer, and I held up a hand to stop him. Don't come any closer. Maya, please. His voice cracked. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I've done terrible things. But I'm begging you. Just give me one chance. One chance to prove that I can be the man you deserve. You already had 7 years to prove that, I said. You failed. I know. He looked down at his hands. I know I failed. I know I hurt you. And I hate myself for it. Every single day. But I can change, Maya. I can be better. I just need you to believe in me. I stared at him. This man who had been my obsession, my heartbreak, my everything for 7 years. He was begging. He was pleading. He was offering me everything I had ever wanted. And I felt nothing. Julian, I said quietly. I don't love you anymore. His face went white. What? I don't love you. I moved on. I found someone who actually makes me happy. And I'm not willing to throw that away just because you finally realized what you lost. Daniel. He spat the name like it was poison. You can't be serious. He's nothing. He's nobody. He's just a... He's the man I love, I said firmly. And I'm not going to let you talk about him that way. Julian's eyes blazed with anger. You're making a mistake. You're throwing away everything we could have been. Everything we were meant to be. Everything we were meant to be? I laughed. Julian, you treated me like I was dirt under your shoes for 7 years. You humiliated me. You cheated on me. You married my sister. And now you're standing here telling me we were meant to be together? He flinched like I had struck him. I was wrong. I admit it. I was wrong. It's too late, Julian. It's been too late for a long time. He opened his mouth to say something else, but at that moment, the elevator doors opened and Daniel stepped out. He took one look at Julian, then at me, and his expression hardened. Is there a problem here? He asked, his voice cool. Julian whirled on him. Stay out of this. This is between me and Maya. No, I said, stepping forward. This is between me and you. And it's over. It's been over for a long time. I'm asking you to leave. Now.